Do you know about the hooded man ritual? X, my girlfriend, asked me 3 days ago. I'm not calling my girlfriend X to protect her privacy, it's only because I don't remember her name. She's slowly disappearing from our lives like she never existed. Even her parents have forgotten her. I don't know how I still remember. It all started last Saturday afternoon. X was talking about some new ritual called the hooded man ritual. I don't remember her too well, but I do know she was really into rituals and horror stuff. She would always talk about urban legends and rituals and even did some of them. I remember doing the Midnight Man ritual with her. On the other hand, I'm the complete opposite. I don't really believe in the other world. I just played along with her, just like she supported my interests. And well, I used to be a skeptic. My girlfriend literally disappeared after that day. No one remembers her, and even my memory of her is fading away. I don't remember her face and how she looks, no matter how hard I try. I can only feel her missing existence, like a vital part of my body has gone missing. My memory only allows me to trace it back to that afternoon she talked about the hooded man ritual. I've asked all my other friends about her, and they don't remember her. I got made fun of. Even her parents don't remember her. Over the days, I'm losing more and more of her. I don't want to lose her, and I've decided that the only way I can save her is to go to that stupid ritual. I might be able to bring her back. In the hooded man ritual, you basically call for a cab with 2 black cords at night. Once you are done dialing the number and following the steps, you can open your curtains and you may see the sky has changed a bit, but also a black cab right outside your house. You have to exit your house and then sit in the back seat of the black cab. You will find it empty. Then you will have to fall asleep. Once you wake up, it should be 3:30 a.m. You should bring a watch with you to check this. Fall asleep again and you will wake up inside the cab, except this time, it'll be in motion and the hooded man will be driving it. You can sit in the cab and observe the weird landscape of the other world. There may be another passenger. It is usually advised not to speak to them. Whenever you want to leave, lean close to the hooded man's ear and say, "I have reached my destination." You will fall asleep and wake up in your house. I followed the steps for the ritual and hung up my phone. I walked over to my curtains and pulled them open. The sky was a purple color and it was devoid of clouds. I looked across the street and sure enough, there was a black cab parked there. After a bit of internal fighting with myself, I put the old-fashioned silver watch I got from my dad on my wrist. I walked outside and towards the black cab. Its windows were tinted and it looked quite eerie. I put my hand firmly around the handle and opened the door to the back seat. It was quite comfortable inside. The seats were light leather colored and were very comfortable. I closed the door behind me and fell asleep in no time. I woke up slowly and was momentarily confused when I found myself in the cab. My heart raced as I checked the watch. 3:30 a.m. I prepared myself to fall asleep again, and once again it didn't take too long for me to fall asleep. I woke up to the humming sound of a car engine. I opened my eyes and found myself in the same cab. It was moving on a highway. The sky was of a reddish shade, with a massive plus sign burnt into it. The highway was surrounded by dull fields. I nearly had a heart attack when I noticed the hooded man was driving the car. He was dressed in all black and had a hood covering his face. He drove the cab silently. I was just about to ask him about my girlfriend when suddenly something clicked in my mind. I remembered everything. Her name was Manel. I remembered how she looked like. I remembered her personality. I remembered everything. It was like some part of my brain just turned on. This made me even more determined to find her, and so I steeled myself and asked the hooded man firmly, "Where's Manel?" He pondered on the question for a moment before he answered in a deep, monotone voice, devoid of emotion, "Wait until the end." I was about to ask 100 more questions when I came to my senses and realized that I had just broken a rule by talking to him. My voice caught in my throat and my heartbeat rose. I rubbed my sweaty palms together nervously. I decided not to ask any more questions. The hooded man started laughing, a laugh that sends chills down my spine to this day, a laugh that echoes in my ears again and again. He then composed himself and continued driving. I was shivering uncontrollably from fear. To soothe my nerves, I decided to look outside at the scenery. The fields were now full of strange animals. Animals that resembled cows walked around, eating the grass in the fields. They had purple skin and eyes in front of their face, like a human. Each animal got more and more messed up as the cab drove along the highway. Soon the fields were filled with lots of wooden poles. Each had human heads on them. Some were fresh with blood still dripping down from them, while some were old and half decaying. The landscape got more and more chaotic as I went on. Soon the heads disappeared and the highway went into a forest. I saw people pinned to trees and being mutilated by hooded figures. They were all under various forms of torture, and their mouths were twisted into screams. The trees were all black and dead, like they had been burnt. I saw one man with the skin from his face being peeled off. I could see the flesh underneath. His eyes were wide open. His mouth was in a form of a scream. He was pinned to the tree with large metal nails at his shoulders. He kicked his legs around like crazy. I grew more and more uneasy and disturbed. My mind could not make sense of some of the things I was seeing. I remembered that the ritual outlined that if I wanted to leave, all I had to do was tell the hooded man. Then my goal came to mind and I put myself together. I had to find her. Suddenly the cab came to a stop. The door opened and a tall woman stepped into the cab. The tall woman sat right next to me. I tried not to look at her, like the rules stated, but I could see her in my peripheral vision. She was wearing a bright yellow raincoat that was stained with red drops. I looked outside and sure enough, it was raining blood. The taxi got going again, and the woman next to me leaned close to my ear and spoke. "Are you looking for her?" The hooded man laughed his creepy, chill-inducing laugh again. I started to feel extremely unsafe and nauseous. The cab started driving again, and it was all silent in the cab. The blood ran heavier and heavier until the windows were tinted red. The landscape grew more and more horrific. There was a bridge next to the highway. Hooded figures dropped hurt and mutilated people off the bridge. Under the bridge was a river of hot magma. The people that were dropped there literally melted in with the magma. Their skin turned into liquid and darkened until it was the same color as the magma. We passed the bridge and came across an even more horrific scene. People were being stitched up alive by hooded figures. Their arms and legs were swapped. We continued passing through these horrible scenes, but what came next will disturb me even more. It's hard to describe. You know how we move around in a 3D world and our 3D? These creatures were 4D. I was transfixed by their appearance when I suddenly heard a shrill scream. It was my own. I looked away and closed my mouth. My head started spinning and I felt like I was about to faint. I closed my eyes for a moment. I woke up in the cold asphalt of the highway, my hazy mind starting to clear. I saw the cab far in the distance. They had just left me here. Maybe I shouldn't have talked to the hooded man. Maybe I should have been patient and waited until the cab stopped at least. Now I'm here, alone, in this hellish world. The large red sun was setting in front of me. Soon it will be night. If daytime was bad here, night would be even worse. I moved off the highway and started walking towards what looked like a small village in the distance. I had to get there to shelter immediately. I walked and walked, but the lights of the village never grew closer. The large field that I was walking on was endless, and it felt like I was on a loop. The sky grew more and more dark, but the village never got closer. I stopped myself and sat down in the middle of the field. I felt exposed and vulnerable there, but there was nothing I could do. The village was just an illusion. I quickly turned back to get back to the highway. I ran and ran, but the highway never came close. Feeling hopeless, I collapsed back on the field. The sky was now dark, and a blood-red moon shone in the sky. I heard high-pitched guttural moans around me. Vulture-like birds were encircling me high in the sky. I looked around and saw several dark figures emerging from either side. The air grew foggy and cold. Combined with the dark, I could barely see a meter in front of me. My blood ran cold as I heard the dragging sounds in either direction of me. I started running blindly. I tripped on an unknown object and fell hard on the ground. I felt a sharp stinging pain in my abdomen. Instinctually, I put my hand there and felt a warm, sticky substance. It was blood. I felt around more and felt a hard rock embedded in my abdomen. I pulled hard on it until it came out. The relief was amazing as all the pressure was released. I lay there heaving for a bit, unable to move. I realized too late that I had made a mistake. Blood poured out of my wound like a waterfall, and my vision grew cloudy. I took off my shirt quickly and wrapped it around my abdomen. I started to get black spots in my vision, and I felt extremely dizzy. I hoped I hadn't lost too much blood. I didn't want to die here. Suddenly I felt a cold icy grip on my shoulder. I turned around and came face to face with a horrible monster. It resembled the Grim Reaper. It was wearing a heavy dark hood and had a scythe in one hand. The metal of the scythe glinted in the moon and had dark red stains of blood on the blade. It had a disfigured and bloody face. To this day, its face is etched in my mind, and I start having a panic attack every time I remember it. The being picked me up and looked at me up and down. Soon more of them appeared from the fog. They started talking in a different language. Their voices were deep and heavy. They discussed for a while before a hooded man appeared from the fog. The Grim Reaper-like creatures immediately backed off. I recognized the hooded man as the one from the taxi and cried in relief. "Leave him," the hooded man spoke in a flat voice. The creatures obeyed and disappeared in the fog. The hooded man came to me and spoke. "Don't come back." Suddenly my head started spinning again and I fainted. I woke up in my house. The first thing I did was check my abdomen. In place of the wound I had was now a big red scar. I suddenly remembered Manel and realized that I had not fulfilled my purpose. Don't try rituals like these for fun. The other world is not to be messed around with. It is a dark and scary place where we humans do not belong.